Good evening. How y'all doing? I have finished procrastinating for the day
Something
at 10
feels
p.m.
odd here. Be on your guard.
So, better late than never, I guess. I have separate saves in case this is the point of no return. I'm too weak to do anything else, side quest wise. So let's just go to Lenegis. Let's take off in our starship, and I'm sure we're about to see some anime, some crazy cutscenes.
Well, it's the moment of truth.
This lady better hold together once we're up in the air.
Law, don't say that. You're going to jinx us.
Speaking of which, Alphen, this bucket of bolts got a name?
A name? You know, I'm not sure she ever had one. I never really thought about it.
Well, after all the trouble we went through to find her, we should give her one, right? I was thinking something like...
Fall Knights.
Huh?
It means owl in the ancient tongue. Literally, the one drawn to the skies.
It's as good as any other name, I suppose.
Sounds perfect for our little escapade.
Not sure I'm completely convinced, but... Well, it's as good a name as any.
Right?
From now on,
Law
she'll be
knows
known
what
as
I'm
the
talking
Fall
about.
Knights.
Okay, people. We have two goals. First, we need to get to Lenegis and make the Renans finally leave Dana alone. And then, we need to figure out the truth behind Shion's thorns and find a way to save her. Sound good?
It could be any bird. That could be any bird, actually. I didn't
Alright.
really
And let's
pay
go.
attention to the quote. I was like, that's sure.
You know,
Rena looks fucking
I
weird.
can still hardly believe it.
Believe what?
I mean, just look at it. The whole of existence, crammed inside a tiny frame.
Now that you mention it, I guess you're right. It does look more like a painting than a living, breathing world.
From up here, all the struggles we've been through feel so insignificant.
Nothing like realizing how small you are to put everything into perspective. Kinda makes the differences between the Renans and the Danans feel pretty small too, huh?
How much longer until we reach Lenegis?
There are better ways to use your time than napping. We should take a moment to familiarize ourselves with the facilities on board before arrival.
Good idea. The starship may end up serving as our base of operations once we're down there. Think you'll be all right with the controls?
You mean the one set to automatic pilot? I dare say I'll manage. I'm basically just here to supervise.
In that case, she's all yours.
Everything okay, Shion? You seem a little different.
Different? Like in a bad way different?
No, not at all. You seem more driven lately, like you found a zest for life. It suits you.
Trying to get like a good look at Rena. There's a lot of colors there. And it looks weird. It looks weird. It's not what it looked like when it was in the sky. Is there like a red thing moving? Are the colors changing? Is it me? Hold on. Well, the colors are, like, slowly changing. I don't think I'm imagining... I'm not imagining this. Okay. I'm still assuming my original hypothesis is correct. They're sucking up the energy to give to Rena, because Rena died.
We'll be going to Lenegis soon.
This must feel like a homecoming of sorts to you, huh? What was life on Lenegis like back then? You know, before you came to Dana.
Let's just say, I don't have many happy memories. I've had thorns my whole life, for as long as I can remember. They called it treatment, but in truth, they were just using me as a guinea pig for their research.
You mean, they experimented on you?
That's right. All I was to them was a riddle to solve. They poked and prodded me, trying to figure out what triggered my thorns or changed the form they took. Day in and day out, every single day, one test after another. I'm still surprised they didn't try to dissect me. The look they gave me whenever one of them touched my skin. How could I forget it? Reeling from the pain, like I was a monster or something. Some existence, huh? A blight on any I touched. Helplessly complicit in their pain. I thought things couldn't get any worse, but then they did. I started to have nightmares, visions of the coming apocalypse. Is it any wonder I lacked a cheery disposition? Unable to so much as touch another soul. Loneliness was my best friend. Sure, I survived, but with the knowledge that one day I'd be swallowed up by oblivion. And that's when it hit me. If I was going to die, then it should mean something. If I have to sacrifice myself to save the world, so be it.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you relive that.
No, it's fine. I'm in a much better place now.
You say it's your destiny to die so that others can live. But why not the other way around? Why shouldn't we be the ones dying to save you?
Are you crazy? Why would you sacrifice your life for...
That's exactly my point. Why should you have to give up your life just because you drew the short straw in the destiny stakes? How is that even right? It's that logic that's used to justify slavery, as if some of us were just meant to be sacrificed. This struggle was never about saving only ourselves. But that doesn't mean we have to give up our own lives to save everyone else's either. If we're doing this to protect people, if we're doing this to save the world from destruction, then that has to include saving each other as well.
A world free of sacrifice. That's what you've been fighting for all along, isn't it?
Not just me. We're in this together, remember? This fight is yours too, Xion. If we're going to win, everyone has to win. There can be no room for losers in this fight. Now I see it. The true nature of our struggle.
A victory without losers. But that means that a Danon victory over Rena can't be the end. Do you think we can pull it off?
You bet we can pull it off. We have to. It's the only hope we have of things ever changing.
Yeah, you're right. No one's ever changed the future without aiming for the stars. We can do this. Together.
Alphen is a strange, fractured character. Because, like, aside from being Alphen, he's also, like, the audience, like, self-insert, and so he ends up having to ask the questions that need to be asked, so then they get explained to us. But half the time, he's asking questions that makes him sound like a complete idiot. And so he's just like... I don't know. And I don't know. Alphen's a meh character overall as well. He's kind of just generic idealistic hero.
Something wrong?
No. I was merely thinking how it had been 7 years, that's all.
You mean since you became a lord and left Lenegis? I guess even someone like you can get homesick, huh?
I am as prone to sentimentality as any other. Tell me though, You too have a history with Lenegis. A traumatic one, no less. This trip will probably mean facing up to some difficult emotions. Doesn't that frighten you?
Well, it is a place where I took the lives of countless people. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't thought about it. But I can't keep running forever. The past is what it is. There's no changing that. But the future's what we make it.
I see.
Dohalim?
Forgive me. I was wrong to pry. We have more pressing matters to address. Come back and speak to me when you finish looking around the ship.
Ooh, a twofer.
Hey, Alphen, listen to this! So Law and I were just talking and...
Hey, shut up!
And what's got Law all flustered?
Only that he's afraid of flying, the big baby. And after all that fuss he made about naming the ship, too.
Hey, I never said I was scared. I just think it's, you know, a little unsettling how we're going to be cruising through space in a glorified tin can. That's all.
It's a starship, dummy. That's what it's supposed to do. I don't think there's anything strange about it.
Well, maybe you're the one with the problem then.
Guys. I'm no expert, but I think we can trust Renin technology. It got me to Dana in one piece, remember?
Oh, that's a good point. If you think so, Alphen, it must be okay. Don't you agree, Law?
Hard to argue with that, seeing how you hitched a ride in one of these things before, Alphen. It's just wrong, okay?
Brenwell is very Rita-esque. I like Rita better.
You okay? Feeling airsick?
Actually, now that you mention it, not at all. These starships are a remarkably smooth ride, all things considered. Nothing like being at sea, thank goodness.
Glad to hear it. That device there caught your eye, huh?
I was just wondering what it is. It looks big enough to fit a person inside of it.
It's a healing pod. It fixes injuries and illnesses.
Oh, you don't say. That should definitely come in handy if any of us get injured while we're down there. Alphen? Was it something I said?
No, I was just thinking back to when I escaped Lenegis, that's all. What with the ceremony and losing control, I was a total mess. Naori laid me inside here.
So, you're saying you got in this thing straight after escaping? But that mean... you were inside for 300 years?
Yes, it sounds crazy, I know. But don't even ask me why I stayed asleep all that time.
That's definitely quite some lie-in, all right. But still, whether you meant to or not, I sure am glad that it's this century that you finally woke up in.
What do you mean?
With the amount of fighting we've done, we would have never made it this far without you. And not only that, but... Alphen, can you recall back to what it is that I said to you? Back when we left Menancia? About the dream of coexistence, and needing to learn what it entailed?
Of course. That's why you came with us, right? To learn what you couldn't at home.
Even in that time, I was well aware that what I was living was a lie. But at the same time, I also felt really compelled to fulfill my brother's wishes. I'll always remember him fondly. But the coexistence we're fighting for isn't for him. It's for people now, and those still to come. The world's bigger than just Menancia. My dream is for all Danans, wherever they might be, to be free. If I've learned anything on this journey, it's that. And the one who brought me along was you, Alphen.
We're never really free, though, are we?
I'll be grateful to you.
Well, we're not
Not
out
really.
of this forest just yet. You should probably save your thanks. At least, until we've dealt with the Red Woman.
I know. But whatever we find when we get down there, I'm through looking the other way.
Kisara.
Probably getting a little ahead of myself, huh? Let's take things one step at a time.
book. What is this thing? Whatever.
Is everyone about ready? We'll soon be making preparations to land.
Before we do that, just what exactly should we expect when we get down there?
Kisara has a point. Now that I think of it, I don't know the first thing about Lenegis.
I'd like to hear more too. It's been centuries since I was last there, and they didn't exactly give me the grand tour.
Very well. First and foremost, Lenegis was the base of operations in charge of the crown contest on Dana. Of course, it also happens to be a city in its own right, complete with its own independent society. Its social structure is based on a strict hierarchy. Put simply, the strength of an individual's astral arts carries great weight.
Enough to determine someone's social rank, you mean? But astral arts are innate, right? So people's positions are fixed at birth.
They can be honed with the right training, and there are admittedly other factors at play. But yes, that's basically the gist. As a result, family lines that churn out lords and their contenders wield disproportionate influence, and those lineages are treated as nobility.
Those capable of only weak astral arts are effectively an underclass, denied the right to descend to Dana even if they wanted to. Still, even the lowest rung on the Renin ladder is considered superior to being a Danan. Keep that in mind down there.
Thanks for the warning. As a lord, Dohalim must have been pretty high up in the pecking order, right? What about you, Shion?
Come on, you've seen her skill with astral arts. You really need to ask?
Fair point.
On arts alone, you're right. I'd have been sitting pretty. But you're forgetting my thorns. They weren't exactly an invitation to high society.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's refreshing to be around someone who says what they're thinking. Life's less complicated that way.
True, true.
Jeez, give backhanded compliments much?
Wait a second. Are you? He is! Lost blushing!
I am not!
Of course, separating people into castes based on something arbitrary like arts is discrimination at its worst. As if such simplistic criteria could ever be a measure of someone's worth.
So this red woman, are we expecting to find her on Lenegis?
I would wager so. Lenegis is too deeply involved in all this to discard the possibility. Chances are she's also connected to the Renis Alma being stolen from us in Pelegion.
If the Renis Alma is being used to exploit Dana, we need to take it back at all costs.
That red woman's got a lot to answer for. Just as well I've got a ton of questions.
We're about to land. The descent could be a little bumpy, so brace yourselves.
If there are clues about your thorns out there, Shion, we'll find them.
I have already forgotten what my prediction was for, like, the grand scheme. Something about the soul of Rena. I didn't really put much thought into it, that's why I don't fucking remember. I just spout shit. I don't know. I don't think about what I'm saying.
There's no one here. I wasn't expecting a welcome mat, but still.
Lenegis's infrastructure is largely automated. Besides, people won't be expecting incoming traffic while the crown contest is still underway.
Do you think anyone realizes that we're here?
We may not have received a royal welcome, but I doubt our entrance went unnoticed. Don't let your guard down.
I really hope we don't have to fight anybody while we're here.
So now what? We've come all this way on a hunch that this red woman is here, right? And if we're lucky, the Renis Alma too. Any idea where we should start looking?
There is an area of the city that is accessible only to the Sovereigns, known as the Forbidden Zone. That seems as good a place as any for us to start.
Forbidden? What are they hiding?
I don't know, hence my desire to find out. Fortunately, we just so happen to have a sovereign in our midst. In any case, changing the shape of a huge structure such as Lenegis would have required an immense source of power.
Then you think that source might have been the Renis Alma?
Precisely. Alphen said that he remembered the Renis Alma being used in the spirit channeling ceremony 3 centuries ago. Whatever the ceremony's purpose, if preparations are underway for it to be held once more, then the Renis Alma might be in the same place as last time, possibly together with the Red Woman. Hiding something of that worth in the residential quarters would only court trouble. In which case...
It stands to reason we should be looking somewhere normally out of bounds. Is that it?
Indeed.
But it's been over 300 years since I was made a sovereign. You can't seriously think I'll be able to waltz right into the place after all this time.
There's only one way to find out. If there's even a chance you can get us in, I say we give it a shot.
Shion's right. Who knows? We might even find a clue to her thorns while we're at it.
All right. It's not like we're swimming in leads, so let's try to track down the Forbidden Zone.
The Forbidden Zone.
Beyond that wall lies a city full of Renins.
Oh no, my livestock.
The capital city where Shion and Dohalim used to live, no less. Who knows what we'll find on the other side.
Thinking about what could be lurking out here is giving me the heebie-jeebies.
For such a loudmouth, you sure can be a worrywart at times.
Oh, I'm sorry. How stupid of me for wanting us to stay safe.
Would you two children stop squabbling? Or do you want everyone to know we're here?
So how many Renins actually live in this place?
I couldn't tell you exactly, though not as many as you might expect. Machines and Zeugles take care of most of the city's basic functions.
There's Zeugles out here too, huh? Sounds like we can't afford to let our guard down after all.
Alright, so it's not a point of no return. So that's good to know. How you doing, Soryu? Oh, this place is a fucking mess. I was kind of expecting this, honestly. There's a new Star Ocean game?
What
like,
in the world?
Announced or like came out?
Renin territory.
I didn't hear anything.
I was prepared for a lot of things to look different. But this is a bit more than I anticipated.
The very foundations of the city have shifted. What could have caused this?
When Lenegis changed shape, it must have had an effect on the interior too.
Maybe when they sent the wedge down to Dana?
But they wouldn't move around the places where people live. These are their homes, right?
I would think the citizens themselves didn't have much say in the matter. Either way, locating the Forbidden Zone just became that much trickier.
Dohalim? Is that you?
Avakir, I'm glad to see you're well.
So it is you! But why are you here? Shouldn't you be down on Dana participating in the crown contest? And these people!
So you haven't heard what happened on Dana, then?
Heard what?
Someone you know?
An old friend.
Hey, Dohalim, don't tell me you've started keeping company with...
They're with me. More importantly, what's happened here?
I'm really not sure. The city's foundations began to shift without warning, and now everything looks like this. We're all waiting for the Sovereign to tell us what's happening, but so far...
Avakir, listen to me. We're looking for the Forbidden Zone. Do you have any idea where we might find it?
The Forbidden Zone? What business could you possibly have there?
Trust me. The less you know, the better.
You're just the same as ever. I wish I could help, but what with the changed topography, I can barely locate my own home. Let alone the Forbidden Zone.
Very well. It looks like we'll have to find the way there ourselves.
Have you seen Faria yet?
No.
I see. Well, nothing much has changed with her. If anything, she's probably even more...
I can well imagine.
Why did you come back? You know it can only result in pain for you both.
I've no doubt of that.
You really are the same as ever. Fine, I understand. Just don't say I didn't warn you. And take care of yourself, okay, Do?
So who's Faria?
Law?
If what Avakir said is true, it would seem the people of Lenegis are being kept in the dark about what's happening down on Dana.
They seem to be just as clueless about what's going on up here in their own world. Despite the fact that it's actually here that the wedge originally came from.
We need more information. Let's talk to the citizens, see what we can find out.
While we're at it, we can ask them about the Red Woman, too.
And don't forget about finding the way to the Forbidden Zone either.
Let's leave the talking to Shion. We can't have a bunch of Danans poking their noses around.
Good idea. I think that's for the best.
I shall assist.
You sure?
Being a lord on Lenegis has its advantages.
Right. Then we'll leave it to you two. The Danans among us should probably keep our heads down.
Right.
What if people freak out?
I shall explain it away by saying I'm leading you.
What
No
are
faith in Trice
dogs?
anymore. I just looked at... I'm gonna take a quick detour. I just looked at a list of Trice games. A lot, like... A+ stuff up until 2010. Higher than that, S tier until 2010. And then I didn't realize they like were involved with Final Fantasy 13, 2, and 3. And the only other games I even know in here are Star Ocean games. And yeah, they haven't really done anything of note. The last good one was Resonance of Fate. Really? So, yeah, but I think I found a trailer. I want to look at this trailer. So, I don't want that one. I want. Let's just mute Tales of Arise for a hot second. Let's just... God, I'm very slow doing this kind of shit. Let's just take a look at this. I'm curious.
Scanning craft. Pan-Galactic Federation battleship, the Astoria. Weapons activity detected. Readying third
Starboard
strike.
thrusters to full power.
There's no time.
No way!
Abandoned ship.
The last,
All
like,
crew
2
members,
Star
get to an
Oceans
escape.
were pretty meh. I didn't even play them. I just, like, saw them. I was like, these look kind of shitty. It's such a shame. They made such good stuff. Like, Star Ocean was so good. I mean, it looks pretty. It's not like next gen. still looks pretty. Although... it looks like I'm seeing a lot of, like, frame drops, and this is a trailer. I don't think it's the YouTube video.
Are you quite all right?
It's help you're offering, then it's help I'm taking.
Overly strong T's bother me when someone goes, "Are you all right? All right?" I'm like, can you not? Can you not? Like,
Damn near the full Federation fleet's moving in on us. Wish I could say we're good, but the Fed saw to it we aren't.
well, yeah, the character models look like
Edis needs you. Good luck, Ray.
they look the same as like the last one I played on PS3.
I am certain your journey into the stars above
That was like 8 frames a
will bring
second.
hope to the future of this world, Your Highness.
Spare me your self-righteousness. I shall be saved by mine own hands.
If humanity should persist as it has, never will it find total freedom from sorrow. What hope do we hold should they descend upon us now?
If you dare turn your back to this, I swear I'll destroy the Federation ship by ship until there's not a damn thing left!
Models will fix it, yeah.
PlayStation.
It's Star Ocean. I'm not. I don't really feel anything, honestly. It would have to be really good for me to want to care. Considering how the last few went.
What could be so important? It's worth destroying people's livelihoods and homes in the process. It's just unbelievable. Uprooting an entire city as if it were mere building blocks. Someone's got an awful lot of questions to answer.
From how it looks, they must be siphoning off astral energy from Dana, and then sending it to Rena.
But why do all this? What for? Surely they can't be using all that energy for the crown contest.
Whatever their purpose, disrupting their siphoning process alone won't be sufficient. Not while we still don't know what their endgame is.
He's right. We need to stop this from happening ever again.
This Forbidden Zone might be where we find some answers, right? So what are we waiting for? Let's get moving!
You heard him. We don't have time to stop and chat. Let's move.
Is that Pixel remake from Final Fantasy V?
So, I've been wondering, do you think when Lenegis was built, it was even made with people living here in mind?
What do you mean?
Well, none of this happened by coincidence, right? They must have designed it to transform like this. But then, if they knew people were going to live here, you'd think they would have taken that into consideration, to avoid all this chaos.
Ordinarily, yes. You'd think so. Trust me, as far as we were concerned, Lenegis was our home, nothing more. No one knew about all this. It makes you wonder whether the city was just built on as an afterthought. But if so, to what exactly?
Sorry. That probably sounded weird, huh?
Not at all. Sometimes it takes an outsider's eye to help you notice what you've been missing all along. This place is a mystery, that's for sure. Something tells me we'll find answers where we're going, though.
Yeah, you're right, Shion. I'm sure we will.
Alright. How you doing, old man?
Oh, dear me. What an unspeakable mess this has all become. Just look at the state of our city. Even the Zeugles have stopped heeding our commands. Whatever did we do to deserve this?
You really have no clue what might have caused this?
Would that I have. Alas, there was no warning, no prior decree. His Highness must have deemed it unnecessary for us to know. We have no choice but to grin and bear it.
Who is His Highness?
But do my eyes deceive me? Could I really be standing in the presence of his lordship, Dohalim of the House Ilkaris? I believed he was on Dana.
Your eyes do not deceive you. It is I, one and the same. I have returned to fulfill a special duty, the details of which I cannot divulge.
As your lordship wishes. First Lenegis mutates beyond recognition, now this unexpected visit. The Sovereign's plans are inscrutable indeed.
Yeah, who is the current Sovereign?
The Ilkaris house has produced a great many lords over the centuries. I shall be praying for your victory in the latest crown contest.
Your good wishes do me an honor.
I feel like that's a question no one's asked. Like, who's the current Sovereign? But the crown contest determines the next one. Who's the current one? Just don't know how they can tell the difference between Renans and Danans. It's a fair question. Ooh, fancy parfait.
Everything will be okay now.
I know the basics of healing arts, but my skills pale in comparison.
Your lordship! Oh, what a great honor it is to finally meet you. I descended to Dana during the last crown contest also. Alas, when the contender I was backing failed to clinch the title, I returned. I witnessed the deaths of so many slaves.
Indeed.
Sorry to interrupt, but we're looking for a woman dressed all in red. Have you seen anyone of that description?
All red, eh? No, I can't say I remember anyone like that. I imagine she'd stand out somewhat, too.
Yeah. What about down on Dana during the crown contest? You didn't see anyone like that hanging around the lord you were serving?
What's with all these questions? I've never seen her, okay? Not recently or otherwise. Why do you want to find her anyway?
Never mind. Forget I asked. Sorry to take up your time. Is everything okay? You look a little lost.
Hmm? Oh, yes. I can't seem to find my way home, is all. I was just about to make my umpteenth attempt at a new route.
I was hoping to head this way myself. The situation is a real pain, huh?
I suppose the Sovereign knows best. I daren't stay here too long, though. A lower caste can only linger around these parts for so long before I outstay my welcome. I was hoping to avoid it, but maybe I'll have to go that way after all.
You mean you know another way round?
Lord Dohalim Ilkaris! But how? Last I heard, you were in Dana competing in the crown contest.
Yes, strange, isn't it? If you know another route, we'd be grateful if you could tell us.
But of course. Please forgive me. There's a wall that sprung up ahead of here, with what looks to be an entrance in it. I thought maybe it was a passageway between the different quarters, but I've no way of knowing for sure.
It's worth investigating, at least. I shall go and assess the situation. In the meantime, wait for me here. If it looks safe, I'll come and let you know.
You'd really do that for me? A lord troubling himself for someone of my lowly status?
Our lot in life is of little consequence. We are both Renan, first and foremost.
Oh, why yes, my lord. Thank you.
Well, we've canvassed the city for information. What do you think?
No one has the faintest idea what's happened to the city after all. They haven't heard the news about the crown contest either.
You'd think that info would easily find its way up here. Has it always been like that?
Not to this extent, which would indicate that something's suppressing the truth, that Lenegis is under some kind of control.
Given everything that's happened to their city, the people here seem weirdly okay with it all.
Yeah, that one guy even said his Zoogle had stopped listening to him. If that's true, these people are in big trouble.
Everything that happens here is attributed to the Sovereign's will. It's the way people have been conditioned. Their belief runs deep. Nothing happens devoid of a reason. To them, it's all part of the Sovereign's grand plan.
The Sovereign's plan. There is one thing I'm still not sure about. Just who is this person ruling over Lenegis?
The Sovereign, of course. He rules from Rena while presiding over both Rena and Lenegis.
Without the lords or anyone in the middle doing his dirty work? Isn't Rena at least the same size as Dana? That's a pretty big dominion for one person to rule over. I would have thought ruling Lenegis alone would be difficult enough.
The points you make are valid, though I confess I'd never given it much thought before. Here, the Sovereign's total authority is as natural as night turning to day. Come to think of it, I know nothing of the nature of how Rena itself is. Shion, have you ever been... No, forgive me. Have you met or crossed paths with, or even heard of someone who's actually made a visit to the homeland?
No, I haven't.
I had a feeling.
None
of them have ever been to Rena.
Imagine that... But no, surely not. Can it really be that no citizen of Lenegis has ever been there?
Because the planet is barren.
What are you getting at, Dohalim?
Assuming what I believe to be correct, it's possible that no one on Lenegis has ever laid eyes on the actual Renan homeworld itself. No one but the Sovereign, that is.
But what about trade and communication? There's got to be a flow back and forth, surely.
Not if the Sovereign is imposing his will on Lenegis single-handedly. It could be a one-way street.
But I thought you said that the Sovereign's all the way over on Rena. If that's the case, can he really rule directly over Lenegis from so far away? What if something were to happen to the city, like now?
I'm beginning to wonder what the nature of this Sovereign even is. Alphen said he was forced into the role, right? Just before the ceremony. But Sovereign is also the title given to the almighty Renan ruler. So which one is it?
Whoever wins the crown contest inherits the throne from his or her predecessor, before becoming ruler over all of Rena and Lenegis. Thereafter, that individual is known as the Sovereign. Though, it would appear that the current ruler has gone silent. As for how Volron factors into all this, at this point, I no longer know what to believe.
3 centuries ago, I became the Sovereign here on Lenegis. No, not just became, I was forced to. Me, a Danon. 300 years later, we cross paths with Volron, who also bears the Sovereign's crest. That's not the only thing we have in common. We both became Sovereign without winning the crown contest.
Do you think Volron was made Sovereign for the same reason? Because of that ceremony?
I can't say for sure, but it certainly sounds like it.
But that would mean that 2 Sovereigns would need to exist at any one time. One whose job it is to rule, and the other for ceremonial purposes. We never did see Volron's body back in Ganath Haros. Is a new ceremony underway with Volron at its center this time? Could that be what's causing all this strange activity here?
Wait a second. You don't think Volron and the Red Woman are working together, do you? The ceremony can't go forward without the Renis Alma. The same one that the Red Woman stole.
There's something else the ceremony needs. A maiden. And unless there's another one out there aside from me...
Questions, questions, and yet more questions. Ones that it seems will remain unanswered, until we can establish the Sovereign's identity.
If the Forbidden Zone really is off-limits to everyone but the Sovereign, that seems as good a place as any to start. For the sake of liberating Dana, too.
Then it's decided. That's where we need to go.
One of the citizens mentioned a passage that she thought might lead to another section of the city. It could point us in the right direction. Let's go find it.
Okay, finally, I needed a dialogue break. I'm glad I took a... Oh my god, this fucking skit. I'm glad I took a break when I did, because there was like 30-40 minutes of straight talking, and today it's been 47 minutes of straight talking from the game. I'm just like sitting here listening to dialogue, and it just like wears on me when it goes on for that long.
With nobody left to run the show, I wonder what the people here are supposed to do. I mean, there's sovereigns up on the Renan homeworld, and all their lords were sent to Dana.
But Dohalim was a lord, right?
Only current acting lords have power. Renan society is quite strict about such matters.
Even if the other lords were still around, I doubt they'd be able to do much about the situation.
I wonder what they'd think if they were here to see Lenegis now. Balsif, Ganabelt, Almadria, and Volron. Now that I think of it, aside from Dohalim, we know next to nothing about the other lords.
Well, yeah, why would we? To us Danans, they were just enemies we needed to overthrow. Nothing more.
I know. But seeing Renans in their own city, going about their day-to-day lives, it gets you thinking.
It feels strange to imagine the lords living here too, you mean?
Yeah, a little.
If you're that curious about them, why not try inquiring with some of the locals? Every lord in their household has their share of supporters here on Lenegis. And luckily for us, the people here are unaware of the events on Dana, which means they should be more inclined to talk to us.
Rest of the game is like this? Oh god. Oh. I'm glad you two have something to talk about while I'm listening to endless dialogue at least.
I didn't realize Renans oppressed their own kind too.
And yet, weirdly, none of them seem to mind. Am I the only one who finds that strange?
It is the way things have always been, so no one thinks to question it. You have experience in that regard yourself, do you not?
Unquestioning acceptance of your own servitude. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Even so, the quality of life here seems much higher than any Danan city we visited. I used to think it was impossible to build an ideal society without wealth. But I suppose having it doesn't always mean people are treated fairly either.
More to the point, not a single citizen seems to have even heard of the Red Woman.
What if she's not here? What if it turns out we're looking in the wrong place entirely?
It's still too early to say anything for sure.
For all we know, she might be able to blend in, move around unnoticed. I say we hold off judgment until we've exhausted every avenue.
I could type, I suppose.
Tell me, Dohalim, has that skill of yours got a name?
Enjoy your sleep,
What skill
Avarik.
would this be, pray tell?
You know, when you're talking to people around town. The way they suddenly become putty in your hands.
I'm afraid I don't quite follow.
I do. It's called friendly intimidation. Look imposing and speak in a deep, booming voice, and presto, you'll have people wrapped around your finger in no time.
I would never stoop to such scandalous tricks. Any feelings of intimidation are solely in the eye of the beholder.
So there is a knack to it! How do you learn it? Can anyone do it?
Now you've got me curious. Is there special training to master?
Let's see. An obsession with being elegant is a must. Oh, and it helps to be old-fashioned, too. Bonus points if you speak in a way no one can understand.
If you've a bone to pick with me, it'd be quicker to just come out and say it.
What? They look up to you, that's all. I'm just helping them along.
Hey! What's got into Alphen and Law all of a sudden?
I can barely understand a word they're saying. And what's with the weird poses? Was it something they ate?
I hope you're willing to take the blame for this one.
I wasn't expecting them to take me so seriously. I'll go and have a word with them.
You're gonna call this your favorite until this point. Like, it is a bit much just all at once. You wanna know which lord I support? Why? Are you all canvassing for someone? I'm with His Excellency, Wolsey Teldilis. You probably know him better as Lord Balsef. I know a lot of people consider him to be a giant brute. Believe me, I realize he can be an aggressive man. What those people don't realize is how much he looks after the members of his house. It's fair to say that House Teldilis doesn't enjoy much esteem. Those of us who serve it will be the first to admit that. But His Excellency always stands up against any who would mean us harm. Of that we can be sure. His efforts in the crown contest aren't only for his family, but to improve the standing of each and every member of his house.
Yes!
I owe so much to his excellency. I can never dream of serving any other lord.
Balsef had it in him to care about someone other than himself? Really?
It's possible. A change in position can do much to alter one's perspective.
So even he might have had something he wanted to protect.
Lord Dohalim, you've returned. Oh, and I see you've brought aides with you. Do you remember who I am, my lord? Surely you must, yes? Not only do I support House Ilkaras, but more specifically his lordship personally. So much so I've been trying to share my appreciation of his lordship to any who will listen. In fact, I was planning to publish my extensive writings on the subject through this very terminal for all to read and enjoy. But since the lines appear to be cut due to the recent tumult, I've been unable to upload them. I know, since you're all here, I'll just read them aloud. There exists a most handsome man, a man who radiates beauty, whose every word, every syllable is divine poetry. He hails from the famed House Ilkras, and his name, Lord Dohalim. Music is his passion, the art his great love. The scores of boorish, uncouth men of this land cannot begin to compare to his magnificence. So refined and majestic is his posture, why the mere thought of it brings me to ecstasy. Once he becomes our sovereign, Rena shall bloom anew, ushering in an era of prosperity for our grand civilization. Until that glorious day comes, I shall forever be praying for his victory, morning, noon, and night. Well, what do you think, my lord? I poured my whole heart into it, hoping to capture your essence. Wait, I forgot to mention anything about his lordship's love for collecting things. I must take this time while the lines are down to append it. Only then will my masterpiece be complete.
I guess she intended to spread it throughout all of Lenegis then.
Good thing the lines were down so she couldn't.
It almost sounded like she was praising them too.
Maybe there was more to the guy than at first glance.
I shall refrain from commenting.
Well, I never. Do you think anyone would try to tear me away from House Valkyries?
What?
What do you want? Don't tell me you work for Lord Dohalim or that dreadful Lord Almadria, do you? You don't? Well, don't scare me like that. To answer your question, I come from a family that has served House Valkyries for generations. Indeed, I'm doing all I can to support Lord Ganabel behind the scenes so that he might emerge victorious. Many think him to be a cruel man, but I insist they're utterly mistaken. Though I won't deny he can be strict, he puts Rena's interests front and center like no one else. Why, he advocates that rather than stay confined to Lenegis, we should get on with colonizing Dana and expand our horizons. That way we will become masters of both worlds and overturn our current minority status on Dana's surface. That is why he seeks to become our next sovereign. Tell me, is there a greater, more noble ambition than that? I think not. It is a pursuit of power for the advancement of all our kind. It is what makes him an exemplary lord, a model above all others. Though I was unable to accompany him myself, my two sons have been blessed with the honor of joining him on the surface. As their father, it fills me with endless pride.
Ganabelt was so horrible to people, yet he was invested in helping Rena succeed. Doesn't that seem just a little inconsistent?
I'm perhaps biased in this matter, I admit. However, in my mind, while all lords vie to become the next sovereign, they're also meant to serve as guardians of all of Rena.
It seems like Ganabelt also had people he cared about until the very end.
So why couldn't he extend that to us Danans?
This area doesn't look as badly damaged as that other district we went through.
Indeed. The effects of Lenegis' transformation appear to be less pronounced here. Or, viewed another way, this area was simply luckier.
Pardon me.
This area falls under the sole jurisdiction of House Caneris. I must ask you to depart at once. Surely you don't claim to be ignorant of our famed house ruled over by the esteemed Lord Almadria. If so, I urge you to listen well. In fact, I bid you listen carefully regardless. Have you ever noticed how in the history of Lenegis, only few women lords have emerged to compete in the crown contest? Many have theories as to why this might be, but Lord Almadria quashed the doubts of any naysayers through sheer might. In fact, not only did she usurp her father and previous family master, she also removed her older brother to claim the seat for herself. She is a woman who stops at nothing to get what she wants, who gives her enemies nary the slightest opening to strike. Truly, Lord Almadria is a woman of talent. No one in all Rena better exemplifies the virtues of our nation's meritocracy. Soon the age of a glorious woman sovereign reigning over Lenegis shall be upon us at last.
I guess her willingness to stoop to any low came from a survival of the fittest worldview.
And some people here not only shared her belief, but championed it as morally right, too.
That doesn't make it true. Too bad they couldn't see through her.
Yeah.
Yeah, Almagria was probably the worst of them all, I think.
Ridiculous.
How loathsome. Oh, I was just reading about Volron. Can I help you?
Okay.
I was always an ardent supporter of Lord Woggle Hildreth myself. Were not for his sudden death down on the surface, I likely still would be. In my eyes, Lord Woggle is the true Water Lord. I don't believe for a second that he perished in some accident like they say. Why does this guy know that Volron is dead, but nobody else knows that any of the other lords are dead? As for how Volron runs Ganatheros, don't get me started. I hear he enslaves not only Danans, but his fellow Renans. We may live in a society where to the victor go the spoils, but his actions go against what we as a people stand for. Besides, just what sort of family line is this House Ignaceria of his anyway? I'd never heard of it until he came along, which means they must be among the lowest dregs of society. That such an ignoble lineage could suddenly produce an astral artist capable of ascending to lordship is unheard of. None of it makes any sense, not to mention all the upheaval around here of late. What is happening to our people?
It seems like the people on Lenegis don't really know much about Volron either.
I remember being quite surprised when the Lord of Ganatheros changed so abruptly.
Didn't you have any doubts that something suspicious was going on?
On the contrary. Remember, we Renans are raised to accept everything at face value.
Oh. I couldn't move for a reason.
When you think about it, the families of Renan lords must see them differently than the rest of us.
Yeah, despite the brutality they're known for.
They must have had a lot on their shoulders, carrying all the weight and responsibilities of Renan society.
Renans live in a world where strength and power determine their position in the social hierarchy, so they tend to grow up fiercely competitive. But their loyalty to their people is also strong. It's what brings them together against outside forces, and nothing exemplifies that more than the Lords.
That's what makes them the guardians of all of Rena, so to speak.
Right. It's the same reason Balsif hated my guts, and Ganabelt went after you. Because we're threats to Rena.
I was mixing up names, because everyone has, like, double names.
So, Alphen, have you gained anything from all of this?
Yeah. I think it's made me realize that the Lords were all people, too. Balsif and the others, they all had their own circumstances to deal with as they went through life.
Yeah, but still, just because they had loved ones in their lives doesn't mean...
I know. What they did was horrible. I'm not trying to dispute that. But at the same time, they weren't incomprehensible monsters either. They were individuals, just like the rest of us. So I guess what I'm trying to say is...
You're saying that they weren't bad because they were Renans, or because they were terrible monsters. Even if they did terrible things, they were still just people.
Renwell.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Not at all.
Being a Danan doesn't make you a good person. And being a Renan doesn't make you a bad one. I think that's something we've all seen.
Shion and Dohalim
This reminds me of the writing at the very beginning of the game where like, this is written for 12-year-olds.
To make sure I earn that trust. As a fellow human being above all else.
I'm of the opinion they went a little too far there with the... It's like, yeah, they did terrible things, but they were still people. It's like, yes, but they did terrible things. Like, they enslaved people. They turned people into literal goo. They, like... They murdered. They did terrible, terrible things. Just because they also had, like, people to, like... That doesn't, like, it doesn't, it's like they're talking like it's like it's all excused because they had people that they were doing it for, they had people that they were protecting, and people that they were looking out for, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, they still did terrible shit. You judge them on their actions. Like, it's just one step too far. Just like standing there like, maybe we should forgive them for all the shit they did, because they had their own reasons for doing it. It's like, they still did the shit that they did. And they were unapologetic about it, and they weren't gonna stop either. I want to stay on lot number 1. Like, we're seeing this in all media. I watched a video recently about villains in media, and that they're like sick of like the new trope of like all villains have to be like, they have to be like, they're just misunderstood and blah 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 blah, and it's just like, and they're like, it's okay to have an evil character, they're just there to be evil, they're just an obstacle. And, you know, it can make them more terrifying as a result. Yeah, like, everyone could potentially be redeemed. That's what we're talking about here. It's like, oh, they have redeeming qualities. The lords weren't all bad. Just because all Magia, like, stirred people into a frenzy and had them all turn to goo and then laughed about it. She still had redeeming qualities. You know, she was smashing the patriarchy of Renan society. It's like, she still basically created a genocide.
What is it?
The crown contest itself has always gone ahead as planned, right? In which case, the current sovereign of Rena should be whoever it was that won the previous contest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, who was it then?
Hanfricht Milgras, the former lord of Cislodia, if memory serves.
So then this Hanfricht whatchamacallem, he's the current ruler of Rena?
The last I heard, yes. Though, admittedly, I haven't actually seen him since the end of the previous contest.
You're saying that ever since becoming sovereign, he's never actually shown himself on Lenegis?
I guess over holocom maybe, but not in the flesh. Same thing goes for the sovereign that came before him.
Now that you mention it, I don't recall anyone ever visiting Lenegis from the motherland, sovereign or otherwise.
And that never struck you as a little bit odd?
When you live here, it's as if you're conditioned not to notice all these strange quirks and discrepancies. The question is then, by whom? And to what end?
A new Renis Alma is supposedly created to coincide with every crown contest, meaning each victor is awarded their very own. In other words, if that's true, there should be as many of the things out there as there have been contests.
True, but going on what we witnessed in Pelagian, it didn't look like the sort of thing that could be made to order. But if even the victor's speeches have been part of some grand deception, then where are they? Quite frankly, I'm not even sure what to believe anymore.
You and me both. Though we are Renan by blood, neither of us even knew that such a thing as a Dark Master Core existed, remember?
With any luck, the Forbidden Zone might give us some answers.
No use standing around here chatting about it then. Let's get a move on.
Most Tales games go for the redeemable villain route. That's true. In one of them, you are the redeemable villain. That was a nice twist. But yeah, it was just weekly. Yeah, you're right. It was just weekly done, like, just now. That's a really, like, weak way to do it. Oh my fucking god.
Doe?
There's just so much. It's like every 10 feet.
Faria.
Faria? Isn't that the person that Avakir guy was...
But why are you here? Wait, Don't tell me you've given up on the crown contest and come crawling back home from Dana already. Nothing to say? Even though you were willing to kill Tarnigan to secure your position as Lord, you still... Kill?
I'm here to take care of something. If you wish to continue this conversation, I only ask that you wait until I'm finished.
Oh, of course. You always did prefer to take the coward's way out. Even after 7 years and living on that Danon rock, you haven't changed one bit. But let me tell you, I haven't changed either. Not a day's gone by the past 7 years that I haven't hated you.
If killing me will bring you peace, then so be it.
Dohalim, what the hell are you saying?
First, I have business to take care of. If it's vengeance you seek, I will grant you it. But you must wait. My sins are legion. Let me finish what I came to do. Then you have my word. I will let you do whatever brings you peace.
Sure, that's it. Run away like always. You don't even have the courage to die. No wonder you leave it to someone else. You're just a coward!
Dohalim. I apologize that you had to witness that.
Is it true? What she said about you killing someone?
Each of us have our pasts. I am no exception.
Before, back in Menancia, you mentioned having taken a friend's life over the throne. Is that what she meant?
The mistakes I made there were not my first, and may not be my last. I will say no more.
Did you mean what you said? About letting her take your life if she wanted to?
She has more right to my life than anyone.
But you can't just...
Whatever happens, I have sworn to put an end to the crown contest, and to ensure continued coexistence in Menancia. I have no intention of expiring before I do so. There are far too many questions I still seek answers to. Besides, you have just as much reason to kill me as she does.
Dohalim!
Forgive me. Some things are best left unsaid.
All right. I did like Fantasia's thing right at the end. Even though you could complain, it's like, oh, there's no foreshadowing, and so it's just kind of like contrived out of nowhere to get a rise out of you, blah blah blah. But I liked it. I did have that moment of like, oh shit, I just killed the planet. Like, oops. That was basically my reaction. It's like, my bad. I like my home better than yours, I guess. Jealous of people who got to play Symphonia before Fantasia. Well, why is that? Symphonia had like a similar setup Which is also going to be the similar setup here as well.
This
Two
place
planets
is
vying for the
beautiful.
same energy.
Yeah. It must be some sort of rest and leisure area for the locals.
I will hold that
think?
theory until I'm proven wrong.
Man, these Renan sure know how to live it up, don't they?
Is something the matter, Dohalim?
That's what Planet Deus wanted to say.
Before I went down to Dana, my friends and I, we used to gather at this very spot and play music together. Avakir, Faria, and Tarnagan.
I never really thought about that.
That was a lifetime ago now.
Tarnagan.
My assumption has always
He
been
was
that
the
the
one
Tales
that
games don't
Faria
really relate to
mentioned,
each other
right?
very much.
He was once my dearest, closest friend.
Except for like the couple of
well as
obvious
Faria's
ones that do.
betrothed. Despite Faria's lower class upbringing, she possesses a tremendous talent for music. Entranced by her playing, I helped her overcome her sense of inferiority and introduced her to Tarnagan and Avakir. It was a time of great joy. 4 people bound only by their love of music, with no care for social standing. Only the next song, the next melody.
A friendship based on mutual respect, and a society where everyone is a prisoner to their social class. You really are different, Dohalim.
I suppose it's natural you would see it as strange.
I would have, once. Now, I think the idea of breaking away from society's constraints and choosing your friends based solely on affection is something beautiful that's worth cherishing. Besides, it was that way of looking at the world that laid the foundations for coexistence in Menancia.
Your praise does me too great an honor. I was merely following the wishes of my own heart. And even then, it only lasted until the crown contest began. After that, Tarnagan and I became fierce competitors for the position of Lord. Tarnagan had fallen for Faria. By becoming Lord, he aimed to wrest her from her humble origins and raise her to the highest echelons of society. But fate was not so benevolent.
What happened?
Tarnagan was no match for me in combat. On a level playing field, he wouldn't have stood a chance. But he was desperate and low on options, and he couldn't stand the thought of defeat.
You mean he resorted to dirty tactics to try to win, right? But then why does Faria think... Wait, don't tell me she doesn't know.
How could I tell her? Combined with the trauma of losing her beloved, and by her friend's hand, no less, she would have been devastated.
So instead you let her go on hating you, so she could use that hate as a crutch for her grief?
That's not the same as running away, though.
It is exactly the same. Unable to face the loss of my friend and the burden of my duty, instead I decried my fate and looked away from what I'd done. As for what happened after, that you already know.
But if you hadn't become Lord, Menancia wouldn't be what it is now. The Danans there would still be suffering under Renan oppression like before.
Shion's right. What other lord would have treated me as you did? Anyone else and I would have been dead long ago. You've saved so many people, Dohalim. You saved me. It's thanks to you that I'm here today. So, try not to blame yourself. The burden you've placed on your own shoulders is too much for anyone to bear.
Frank as always. But I shall do my best to heed your advice.
Do you think he'll be all right?
Yeah, I think so. He's got Kisara.
It's important to have someone like that.
I didn't realize how difficult it is just to be there for someone.
Sometimes just knowing someone's on your side can be enough. And he knows, Xion. I promise he does.
I hope you're right. Alphen.
Yeah?
I never appreciated until recently just how much you were always there to support me.
I don't really remember enough about Symphonia.
You've helped me keep going more times than I can count.
My memories of it are pretty vague.
I still wanted to say
it's been so long since I played it. Even if I had remembered all that stuff and realized the relation between Symphonia
and supply officer over there.
And Fantasia.
If they know you're with me, they'll likely offer their assistance.
I still wouldn't have, like, made the connection fully. Holy shit, I need a lot of money. I think it's because I've gotten excited about, like, crazy connections and, like, theories about how things really work, and it's like all that stuff, and then like I've been proven wrong enough times and have those like thoughts dashed away that like I just don't bother anymore. So like, let's say I was replaying those two games right now. I wouldn't have that oh shit moment. Because I wouldn't believe that they were actually connected. I'd just be like, oh, that's a nice little Easter egg throwing in the same name. That's all. That's the end of my thought process would be. I played the GameCube version. The name Darius Carlon was definitely in there. Oh, I need 6,000 more. But also, I should probably look at weapons. I need money! I also, like, don't know what to sell and not sell. Because I might, like, use up some of my materials. Like, I remember a long time ago. For Final Fantasy VIII, I heard the theory of...
Did we really just spend that...
what food do I want? What's one of the new things I just got? Fancy Parfait. Sure.
This came out so good. I almost hate having to eat it.
If you take the combined map of Silverant and Tetheala, and I think turn it 45 degrees to the left, it looks remarkably like the world map of Fantasia. Hello New World kind of messed that up. I like to pretend the game took place on street. I never played that one.
Hoodle, no, that's mine.
Never thought I'd see you fighting Hoodle over food of all things. Normally, you share everything you have with him.
Yeah, but this is a fancy parfait. Every girl dreams of having one of these.
Is it really that big of a deal?
Please don't bring me into this.
It's always nice to eat something that fulfilling.
But yeah, anyways. There was someone I knew at the time very convincingly argued to me that in Final Fantasy VIII, Ranoa and Ultimisia are the same person.
That's all the more reason for me to enjoy it. Everyone knows it takes.
And I was like, holy shit, that makes the story like fucking crazy and amazing. And then I also heard and read
at times such as these,
the exact opposite,
it would be best to just
where
let her do as she wishes.
They're aware of the theory,
definitely.
And it can't be true for all these other reasons.
To enjoy their favorite food,
and it had to do with like,
them to it and don't bother them.
It was just really long. Yep. The one that convinced me, I'm not even listening to this because it's about a fucking parfait.
I don't get women.
so good.
It was this really long, like, it's written like a walkthrough back. And someone's like, we've heard this theory, we think it's a really cool theory, but let's really, like, we spent a long time discussing, like, time models and stuff, and, like, how that works, and how could this be possible, what evidence we have, or what the time model is with, like, the time loops, and the traveling in time, and compressing time, blah, 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 blah. So I heard a lot of very convincing arguments that Renoa is not Ultimedia. So it's like I couldn't ignore it either. And but like, your points are really good. And I just kind of, I'm just like I was so excited about the thought of it. And then when I heard the convincing argument against it, I was just like, I can't be bothered to be excited about some stuff like this anymore. So I don't bother looking into like all the crazy connections and stuff, because I inevitably end up being convinced that it's wrong. Yeah, there are plot holes everywhere. The thing about Final Fantasy VIII is the best parts of the story don't happen during the game.
Damn it! Lenegis soldiers.
Any way we can avoid fighting them?
There's all these cool like events. I don't even know how you be ready. Find out this information in the game.
Well,
I'm talking and eating game. I'm sure it's in the game somewhere. Well, the history of sorcerers and shit. And all the stuff that happened. But like, all the coolest shit in the story, and like the most important parts of the story, happen outside of the timeline that occurs in the plot of the game. And you're kind of just like walking into situations and shit's happening. You're like, okay, well you're there for important shit, but you don't know why. You don't really know who the fuck Adele is and why she's like trapped on the moon or whatever the fuck.
So much for them not wanting to fight. Oh,
I am Lord Dohalim of Elden Menancia. I command you.
Threat to the city must be erased.
No. Have they been brainwashed too?
Brainwashed enough. If they want to fight, they got one.
Its armor's too strong.
Be my guest.
The enemy wields armor too.
You'll soon see about that.
Don't suffer on the side.
watch this.
Down on the ground.
These fists have got your name on them.
Where did that came from?
I'll crush you.
Let's just stop eating while I'm actually fighting.
Lightning reflexes. Tenebrous claw.
Kitara, frozen.
Hammer.
7-hour video of Symphonia. I wish I had the passion to like get into like doing that kind of stuff myself. Sometimes I think, oh, it'd be cool to like look into so-and-so, and I just never bothered to do it, because I'm like, why bother? I'm just gonna be proven wrong, or like, it's gonna lead to nothing, and... Because I had another one recently. This is a little more innocuous, but I'd always enjoyed... I never really got into actually doing it myself, but like the Easter egg stuff in Call of Duty Zombies. And I've always been kind of sad because I felt like I kind of missed out on like some cool shit. Just because like I never got into it at the time. But then their VR Warzone came out, and there was evidence of like some sort of crazy Easter egg thing in there. And I was like, oh, this will be great. And so I started like looking into it, and I spent hours like walking around the map. And I found a Discord, and joined the Discord, and all this stuff. And it very quickly led to... there will be an Easter egg. But it's not there yet. They've only provided clues for like a future patch thing. And I was like, okay, this is fucking lame. So it's like every time I do get like passionately into something, I just get immediately... it just gets immediately dashed. And so that's why I'm so just like... Just even keel. Because you can't be disappointed if you don't get hull pull or anything.
From the citizens we've come across so far.
Yeah, they weren't big talkers, that's for sure. They just attacked without warning.
They weren't in the least bit fazed by Dohalim's presence either.
Indeed. They seem to recognize us as enemies, nothing more. And yet, traditionally, Lenegis hasn't been high on threats. A few frenzied Zeugles during experiments here and there, but not much else.
Their glazed-over eyes reminded me of the soldiers and slaves we met back in Ganath Haros. The ones in blind devotion to Volron.
I've never seen anything
nihilism
like
is the
that
way to
here
go.
on Lenegis before.
Maybe someone doesn't want us here, and the soldiers are their way of letting us know.
What with the Red Woman, the Sovereign, and Volron, we're starting to develop quite the growing list of adversaries. At least we'll know to keep our wits about us.
Ooh, platinum dog tags.
Eat this!
In a bind?
Eat this!
All the power made one. Come forth, a healing
You made me angry. That was a bad idea.
What I can do!
Eat this! That's enough! I'm ready!
Look sharp!
Lightning Tiger Blade!
Too slow!
Too fast!
Stand back. I'll trip it up. What's this?
Like his ability was named Nile or Nihil.
Eat this! Eagle dive!
Can't get out of this!
Eat this! That's enough!
Sleep now.
I'll grind you into dust!
Rolling
Astral energy. Full throttle.
Too slow!
Heal. Appreciate the help.
Flame inside me yearns to be let free!
Here.
You shouldn't have messed with me! Down on the ground! Lost my focus! Can you take it?
Chikara, I'll stop your movement.
And I'll stop your life!
Quite necessary when creating weaponry.
Force Mantis.
No further!
I think I'll pass on my hand.
Eagle on a roll now!
Captivity!
Rolling snap!
Radiant light!
I'm ready to go.
Hurricane!
Don't stop in silence!
I'll end you!
I'll take you all on. Ha! Flare Demolisher! This one's mine.
Feel my weary companion!
Flame Meteor! Inferno Crossing!
Storm!
Ow.
Ripping you up dust to dust! I'll crush you! Lightning reflexes! Tenebrous claw!
This one's mine!
You're done!
All that'll bring you down!
Dust to dust!
Blaze on fire!
Take this!
Hurricane Flow!
I'll stop its charge.
Thanks, Kisara!
You picked the wrong fight! Look sharp!
God damn it.
Here's a time! Dance in the wind! In here!
Far enough. Flaming Meteor! Inferno Crossing!
Storm! Whirlwind Canal!
Anything in armor is all mine!
How about this?
I can carve through armor! Prepare to be seized!
Confiscated!
I'm on it!
Radiant Guard!
Feel my weary companion!
Oh, I just barely got this, Mr. Gart. Barely.
I'll take you all on.
I'm glad to have something to do and not just sit here and like talking to people forever. Although this guy is a little beefy.
I've taken too many hits.
Take this. I Eagle Fly! Look shot! There you go! Some punishment? Come on! You have to hold on! Shield! Alright! Coming out! Storm! There you go! Tiger Blade! I'm on! He's ready to go! Feel my wearied companion! See what happens there if you cross me!
How did Dohalim get revived?
You hear it now! Penumbra! I'll crush you! Lightning reflexes! Tenebrous claw!
I still got some fight left.
Kisara, I'll stop your movement!
And I'll stop your life!
Hey! Poodle's quivering! I think we're about to be real lucky!
Seriously, how did he get revived? He doesn't have like a thing on his... He doesn't have a thing on his thing. Do you ever revive? Well, I don't... How the fuck did he get up? I legitimately don't understand how he got up. No, I rolled into the spell. I didn't mean to hit that one.
Yeah! Pummeling to me! An astral art?
That's my cue!
Shut him down! No further! I'll crush you! Lightning reflexes! Tenebrous claw! Too slow! Now you see what I can do! I'm ready to go! Bloody Negative game! I'm on it! Come and get! We're not finished! Feel my weary companion! I'm on it! Come and get! Incantation ruined! Eat this! Come and get! Ready to break this night! Flaming meteor! I'm on a roll now! Outfit! Commander of Heaven! Phoenix Cyclone! You're wide open! Eagle Wave! Look shot! Denied! Tectonic punch! Now or never! I'm just getting started! Tectonic punch! Aw, here, let me help! I'm on this! You're done!
Astral energy!
You should have messed with me!
Going in! Discharge!
Down on the ground!
Tectonic punch! Take this.
I was trying not to do this, but he just keeps jumping around.
I know fine weapon material when I see it.
I probably should have done this outside of battle, but oh well.
Backing down. Now you'll learn. Smash you. Beast assault. Super swallow dead. Lightning orb. All finish you here now. So much for talking it out.
This is some punishment.
You have to hold on.
You picked the wrong fight.
All finish you here and now. I'll crush you. Lightning reflexes. Tenebrous claw.
My pride was my downfall.
Faster. That's enough! I'll tear you apart! Watch this!
Make it red! Sora, I'll stop your movement!
And I'll stop your life!
Breath of life.
You're wide
Heal
open!
my weary
Drinking orb!
Whirlwind snap!
Illuminate
Sure.
the sun! Cut for holy glimmer!
Powered
Holy
hurricane!
light!
I'm on it!
Where are you going?
Ready and ready! on the wind!
This one's mine!
Penumbra! Getting on! I'll grind you into dust! Take fire time!
Now!
Sora, I'll stop your movement!
And I'll stop your life!
What's up again? Did the Doho leaf go down?
A hard-won victory.
I didn't notice. What the hell is reviving him? I don't understand. What? How is he getting back up?
Don't seem to have any qualms about attacking on sight.
Is someone making them stand guard?
This thing is annoyingly beefy.
I'm on it! Come and get it! Armor won't save you!
You picked the wrong fight.
As if the normal creepy crawlies aren't disgusting enough.
What's this?
Can't get out of
I'm on
this!
it!
More for the sun!
I'll run you through! Super swallow dead!
This one keeps charging us.
That's what my shield's for. Get behind me.
I'll leave it to you.
I'm ready to go.
I'll tear you apart!
Critical!
Take this! Oh! Now I'm real mad! I'm on it! Dust to dust!
The bleeding fight is yours to be let free.
No! I'll crush you!
AI using life bottles? I never used them before. Alright, let's keep track. I currently have 9.
That's enough! I'll smash you!
Let me at him.
Burn in hell! Super swallow dead!
Hurricane strike!
Eagle ray! Rolling snap!
How about this?
Down on the front! You're done! Begin! Almost! You're wide open!
Hurricane strike!
I'll tear you apart! These fists have got your name on them!
Flaming meteor!
Dead!
Heal my weary companion!
I'll crush you! Lightning reflexes! Tenebrous claw! Eat this!
This one's mine!
You made me angry. That was a bad idea.
Field!
Guardian Field!
Armor won't save you! I'll finish you here and now! Negative gate!
Hurricane charge! I'll take you all on. Ha! Flare the Malika!
Shine! Radiant light!
Shield and mate!
Regeneration! No further!
Watch it! Super swallow dead!
Here!
You picked the wrong fight.
Inferno crossing!
I'm going!
Use too much!
Whirlwind snap! Powered hurricane! I'll finish you here and now!
Force of regeneration!
Swallow dead!
I'll take you all on. Ha! Flare the Malika!
All the mystic arts.
Radiant light!
I'm on it!
Force of
Holy glimmer!
Another incantation ruined. I'll crush you! Lightning reflexes! Tenebrous claw! I'm on it! Come and get it! Captivity! Not my finest! Resonate with the earth! You have to like on your knees!
Burn up!
Air pressure!
Now! Alfred!
Commander of Heaven!
Phoenix Cyclone! So that didn't go as planned.
We must consider well if this is the right path.
I don't know how many claws. I don't want to fight these anymore. They take too long. I don't know how many claws I'm gonna need.
That's far enough!
I'm on it! No further!
Yes, get all the wolves.
Your reflexes will not serve you well
Fucking, I hate the big claw dudes. This enemy type is really infuriating. Okay, Jolim is dead. He's not currently getting up. I want to leave him. I kind of want to leave him down.
Not done yet.
You picked the wrong fight.
Just see if he somehow gets up.
Eat this.
This one's mine!
Hurricane strike. Whirlwind beat.
Make it way! I'll stop your movement!
And I'll stop your life. Best of I'll work you through.
Rising cascade!
Dust to dust. First strike. Now I'm in the groove.
Okay, well, I need them up so I can, like, boost break these guys so they stop jumping around everywhere. Like, as far as I know, he has no reason to just magically be getting up. He's not wearing, like, a KO revive anything.
You see what happened there is you crossed me. Shouldn't have done that.
You made it seem like you knew why he was getting back up.
Frozen!
Hammer!
Why was he getting back up, Sarayu?
We won.
The AI has to be using it? They've never done that before. Oh, have at least 10 life bottles. Oh. So they were using life bottles. I see. I almost never have more than 10 life. It all makes sense now.
No backing down! No further!
How about this?
Not on my watch!
Resonate with the earth! Watch for the range attack!
You got spirit!
I never miss!
This eagle's mine! I'll finish you here and now! Tectonic punch! I'll smash you! There you are! Watch it! It's release! No one shall break this night! Fire support! Can't get out of this! Down!
Here goes!
Super swallow dance!
Now!
Dust to dust! I'll crush you! Lightning reflexes! Tenebrous claw! You're all alone now! Rip and tear!
I've used too much.
Far enough! I'm on it! Come and get it!
Super swallow dance! Watch this! Shield and regenerate! Appreciate the help! You picked the wrong fight!
Don't suffer in silence. Going in.
This
one's mine! Sleep now!
I'll tear you apart!
I'm ready! Jolene!
Light burst forth!
Radiant Genesis!
Damn it, finish! Shattering the pieces! Attack combat! Dragon Shell! Guard! Inferno Crosser! Eat this! I'll end you!
Down on the ground!
Naked Ray!
Reload! Light burst forth!
Radiant Genesis!
Too slow! Super Swallow Dance! Hurricane Storm! Going Hurricane! Naked Ray! Take! Blow them away!
My exploits are bearing fruit.
So much CP usage. So much CP usage. This entire game is just filled with it. CP usage everywhere.
It'll be a breeze. Get in, get out. I see one, eh? Watch it!
Deal for it! Hey, Drinky, how long are we gonna keep this up for exactly?
I'll crush you! Lightning reflexes! Tenebrous claw! I'm on it!
No further!
My God! Super Swallow Dance! Come on, roll now!
I've let you all down. I couldn't make it in time. From beyond, from beyond, imbue this vanquished world with life. The flame inside me yearns to be let free. Heal my weary companion.
Denied! Super Swallow Dance!
Radiant light. Regeneration. Regenerate. Hearts are being interrupted. I really owe you one. Benediction light. I don't have much left. Another incantation ruined.
Come to an end.
Feel my weary in a bind.
Super Swallow Dance! Death
Breath of life. Heal my weary.
All finish you here and now!
Radiant light. Regeneration.
Eat this!
I'm ready to go.
I'm just getting started! Hurricane! We're not finished! Come on, roll now! I'll smash you! My shield! Hurricane! Blizzard Blow! Eagle Dawn! Make it rain!
This one's got your name on it!
Action to action.
But there's another one? Oh my god, I thought that was the last one.
Ribbon 10! How about this? Let's see what happened there as you crossed me. That's enough! I'll tear you apart! Anything in armor is wrong! Make it rain!
This one's got your name on it!
Action to action.
There's always room for improvement.
Alright, enjoy yourself, Sarayu. I'll be here, overusing my CP. At least for not too much longer, honestly. I need to try and get up early tomorrow. So I should go to bed sooner rather than later.
This must be it. The entrance to the Forbidden Zone.
But it's just a wall. How do we get through?
Whoa, we? I thought this was Sovereigns only.
Alphen.
Interesting. If Alphen's presence still opens the way, it would seem the Sovereign of 3 centuries ago and now are considered one and the same.
What?
What the?
Alphen.
You again.
Tomorrow's the spirit channeling ceremony. We'll finally play our parts as the Sovereign and Maiden. How have you been feeling?
What am I sovereign of? Shuffled from lab to lab, always treated like an experiment. Whenever they look at me, all they see is a Dahnan. I don't even know what their precious ceremony's for, let alone what they're going to force me to do as the Sovereign. Tell me, if we're both in the same boat, why do you seem so calm right now?
No choice. Becoming the Maiden's not something I wanted for myself. But they said Rena's prosperity depended on it. How could I say no after that?
Still, as a Renan, at least you got to decide. Good for you. Meanwhile, I was taken from my homeland. You aren't the captive one here.
It isn't right what they did to you, and I'm sorry for what it's worth. When this is over, I swear I'll help you get home. I can't do this alone. One more day.
How could I say no to that? It's not like I have any choice in the matter anyway. So, what's your name?
It's Naori. Naori Imaris. Try to remember this time.
You don't act like them. Like the other Renans, I mean. How come you treat me like a person?
Because you are. It's true we come from different worlds. But neither one of us asked to be here right now. In that sense, you and I are much the same. We couldn't do this. We wouldn't be able to talk to each other as people if we didn't see the humanity in each other.
So I suppose the question you should be asking is, why wouldn't I treat you like one?
You're not like the others.
Maybe they're not like me.
Here's what we'll do. We give them their damn ceremony. You get me to Dana. That'll be the end of it. I'm taking you at your word on this. I'm trusting you, not them. Naori.
What the hell just happened?
That vision. Did everyone else see it too?
That person Alphen was speaking to, she looked exactly like Shion.
It was Naori. Naori Imaris. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right.
She really does look like Shion. I'm beginning to see why Alphen was so confused.
That's all very well and fine, but what did we just witness exactly? It was too real to be a mere hallucination.
It was a conversation we had 300 years ago. The night before the ceremony.
You mean all of that really happened? We just saw an episode straight out of your past?
But how is that even possible? Unless... Could this be the Red Woman's handiwork too?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
You guys didn't feel it? The moment the entrance opened, it was like a stream of Dahnan astral energy rushing over us.
I felt it too. And not for the first time either. It was the same sensation as back inside the wedge.
That would make sense. After all, vast amounts of Dana's astral energy were being siphoned and sent up here to Lenegis. For all we know, perhaps we're close to the spot where all that energy was stored.
So you think it might have been the energy itself that was responsible for that vision we just saw? But how? And why?
We have no way of knowing. Maybe it's not even as deliberate as all that.
Shion, you okay?
Yeah. It was all just a little sudden. That's all. So that was my ancestor, huh? It was like looking into a mirror.
Yeah, there certainly is a resemblance.
What about you? How are you holding up?
Me?
Even putting aside the question of where that vision came from, it's likely we'll see more of those. Reliving painful episodes from your past. Do you think you can handle it?
I can't just pretend like the past never happened. Besides, if it helps us uncover the truth of what that ceremony really was, it might also lead to answers about your thorns.
Alphen.
That's not all. This whole time, we've been fighting to free Dana from the Renans. But now that we're here, it seems those same Renans might have it just as bad. I'd like to liberate them too, if I can. Which is just another reason I can't afford to shield my eyes from the truth.
Whether you're on Dana or somewhere else, you always stay the same. Your indignation and righteous passion, your desire to free and protect, they're all hardwired into you. Not that I'm complaining. Come on, let's bust this thing wide open.
Nobody's here.
Stay sharp. After that last illusion, there's no telling what could happen in here.
This is as good a place as any to end it, because I need to end soon, and I feel like if I don't end it now, we'll get sucked into what's happening next, or it'll be a big long boss fight, or whatever. So, I'm gonna call it here. I'll be back hopefully sooner rather than later. Depends how much I've been procrastinating a lot lately. I need to stop, or I need to find ways to get myself to want to stop. I don't know. Either way, if you enjoyed your time here, feel free to follow if you've not done so already. But until next time, thanks for hanging out.